Welcome to the $80 billion identity crisis. While most analysts are still obsessed with lace and runway wings, we're looking at the cold, hard spreadsheets that dictate what the world wears under its suits. This isn't a fashion vlog. It's a forensic audit of the global lingerie industry in 2025. We're decoding how the giants are pivoting from selling a dream to engineering a fit. Consider this your black box recording of a retail revolution. If the lingerie industry were a person, it would be currently sitting in a therapist's office questioning its life choices. We've reached a peak sexy plateau. Victoria's Secret is sitting on a $6.5 billion throne, but the gold is starting to flake off. The shift from visual seduction to ergonomic survival isn't a trend, it's a massive migration of capital. The male gaze is being replaced by medical-grade comfort because, frankly, an underwire that stabs you is the ultimate deal-breaker in any economy. Here's the smoking gun. A 4.1% operating margin. For a luxury-adjacent giant like VS, that's not a profit margin, it's a rounding error. When your margin is thinner than the lace on a thong, every tariff hike and shipping delay feels like a heart attack. The industry has moved from eating steak to chewing on bones. You're working twice as hard just to keep the lights on. It's a classic profitability trap, where scale becomes a liability instead of an asset. Let's talk about the David versus Goliath illusion. VS is a $6.5 billion monster, making regional players like Huijie or Vivian look like rounding errors. But don't let the height fool you. While Goliath is busy managing a massive, aging retail footprint, the smaller players are leaner, meaner, and heavily armed with R&D. It's the difference between a massive ocean liner trying to turn in a storm and a fleet of nimble jet skis. One is stable, but the other actually survives the wave. In consulting, we call this the fat-to-muscle ratio. Gritee is out there generating $1.18 million per employee, with a team of just 120 people. That's enough to buy a fleet of luxury cars for every staff member every year. Meanwhile, the legacy giants are carrying 33,000 employees. When the market shifts, a high headcount is like wearing a lead suit in a swimming pool. Efficiency isn't just about cutting costs, it's about making every single person in the building a revenue-generating engine. The middleman is officially an endangered species. 85% of revenue is now direct-to-consumer. Why? Because in 2025, if you don't own your customers' data, you don't own your future. Relying on department stores is like asking your ex to deliver a love letter for you. Something is going to get lost in translation. By going 85% DTC, these brands are capturing the retail alpha, keeping the margins that used to leak out to third-party retailers. The sexy narrative has been officially evicted. The 36.5% surge in wireless vest-style bras tells us that women are tired of being sculpted and just want to breathe. Comfort used to be the uncool segment of the market, the stuff in the back of the drawer. Now, it's the primary driver of the CAGR. If your product doesn't feel like a second skin, it's essentially a very expensive piece of trash in the eyes of the Gen Z consumer. While Western brands were focused on marketing, China's Huijie was busy in the lab. A 2.28% R&D intensity might sound small, but it's the invisible moat keeping competitors at bay. They aren't just selling bras, they are selling patented dragonfly wing structural engineering. When you have 323 people dedicated to the science of support, your product becomes a piece of technology, not just a garment. It's the Intel Inside strategy, but for your underwear drawer. VS is attempting a heart transplant while running a marathon. By acquiring Adore Me, they didn't just buy a brand, they bought a digital DNA. This is about pivoting from a store-first mentality to an algorithm-first strategy. They are trying to repair a decade of brand damage by embracing inclusivity and AI-driven styling. It's a high-stakes bet. Can the world's most famous lingerie brand learn to speak tech before the D2C startups eat their lunch? Now for the horror movie segment, 247 days of inventory turnover. If you're Huijie, your products are sitting in a warehouse longer than a human pregnancy. In a world where trends move at the speed of a TikTok swipe, 247 days is an eternity. That's not inventory, that's a fabric graveyard. This is the ultimate supply chain friction, where your capital is literally gathering dust, while your competitors are iterating in real time. Look at this matrix. It's a survival map for the next 5 years. You have the tech nerds like Huijie focusing on wings, the data geeks like VS using AI styling, and the material scientists like BYC. The common thread? Everyone is moving away from basic cotton toward advanced materials. In 2025, if your fabric doesn't have a PhD in material science, you're essentially selling a commodity. When the human market hits a ceiling, you look for four legs. The petconomy isn't a joke, it's a strategic hedge. BYC is taking their body heat tech and putting it on poodles. It sounds hilarious until you see the margins. Dogs don't care about fashion trends, but their owners care about pet wellness. Diversifying into petwear and athleisure is how these brands are finding oxygen in a crowded room. The grown-ups in the room need to look at this slide. Policy is the new silent killer. An $85 million tariff hit is enough to wipe out an entire year's worth of innovation. Between OECD tax reforms and ESG compliance, the cost of doing business is skyrocketing. It's like trying to run a sprint while someone keeps adding weights to your backpack. Geography is no longer just a location, it's a tax bracket and a liability. Is the empire crumbling or just renovating? VS has an 81.8% debt-to-asset ratio, which would keep most CEOs awake at night. But they have $312 million in free cash flow. That's their oxygen tank. Huijie, on the other hand, is built like a financial fortress with only 30% debt. It's a battle of philosophies, aggressive leverage versus conservative stability. In a high-interest rate environment, the fortress usually wins. This is the end game. By 2030, the brands that survive will be AI companies that happen to sell clothes. We're moving toward a zero-inventory model where 3D scanning and real-time design eliminate the 247-day nightmare we saw earlier. The winners won't be the ones with the best runways, they'll be the ones with the best algorithms and the most responsive supply chains. The future is digital, ergonomic, and automated. That's the dive. If you want the raw data behind these insights or the full-page deep dive report, you know where to find us. Drop a comment below. Is VS's digital rebirth a masterstroke or a Hail Mary? Send an email to sales@HDINresearch.com for the full presentation deck. Don't forget to follow @HDIN230 for more industry autopsies. Class dismissed.